Now I want to give just a couple of parables from my own life. I mean, there's so many examples of this, and I think when you hear what I say, you'll kind of get that you probably are doing this naturally, but maybe not so consciously. So what I'm saying is that we need to make space for our commitments. That um, we can't necessarily jam more into our schedule or into our lives or even to our physical spaces. And so the first example, kind of a parable about commitment from my own life, was that when I was living in Washington, D.C., and we had I think it was a 700 square foot house, so there wasn't a lot of room, just two rooms on the ground floor with a kitchen and a bathroom at the back of the whole thing, and then a couple bedrooms upstairs. But it was cool. It was really close to the Capitol. There were some pioneer peach trees there that gave some of the best fruit I've ever eaten in my life. So it was a great place. Anyway, uh, my wife and I had a row of bookshelves. You know, we were kind of nerdy people. She was a bigger nerd than I was in that regard. She liked to read, and we liked to save our books. And so we had a whole wall of bookshelves in the living room. And I don't know, I got this feeling like it would be great to have a piano. Like I've played the piano most of my life. I'm not playing it now. It's not really on my commitment list anymore, but then it was. But I was looking at the house, it's like, well, if we had a piano, where would we put it? I mean, there's no room for a grand piano there. So it was going to be an upright piano. And I asked her and I said, how would it be if we took out a couple of these shelves and put them upstairs in the extra bedroom that we weren't really doing much with at that time? It was before we had kids. And just so we'd have a place to put the piano. And she agreed to that. So before I even started looking for the piano, I moved. The bookshelves weren't really built in. They were big, but they were all. I think we had four separate bookshelves that we'd painted yellow for some reason. Anyway, so we took two of them and put them upstairs, and suddenly there was this big opening that was wide enough for a piano. And then with that opening, I started looking to find pianos for sale. And not far away from where we lived in the state of Maryland, there's a company that imported Korean student pianos from the music schools there. And this particular brand, I'm forgetting the name, but they had learned how to make pianos from the Bosendorfer company, which if you know anything about pianos, you know it's like you would love to have one of those in your in your salon to play all day. And so they had learned how to make the action and the tone. And so this piano was like dirt cheap. It was like, I don't know, I don't even think it was $1,000. I think it was like $500. And it played and sounded, it was the best piano I'd ever had personally in my life. The action was just beautiful. And all that came out, the moral of this little story is that all that came out of making space. And then just yesterday, I had a really beautiful experience because I'm building my mentoring practice now. This is, I don't know, my sixth enterprise or seventh. I mean, I keep iterating. It's hard to really distinguish one from another, but this is my latest iteration on my general commitment of creating a peace-based economy. And just to give a little backstory, when I was working in Washington on the political side, trying to create ecologically beneficial forest policies for the federal government as an activist, that worked. Actually, the work we did was very impactful, and a lot of people made a lot of money from that. And I didn't make any money from that. After 10 years of that, I had less money than when I started, and except for our house. We were just lucky our house had gone up in value, but it's not like I had any real savings other than that. And anyway, that's so much backstory, but I'm just going to leave it in there. So the main point is, it's like, hey, we did all this work. We did this kind of sales job on the U.S. government. It worked, and the other people made the money. And I knew that would happen, but I didn't know how to implement both the political work and the building the kind of business that would operate in the future that we helped create. So after I left that organization in 2000, I decided I wanted to learn finance so I could close the loop, I thought, like, what kind of business is it that the sales reps don't get paid? So, uh, and that was really the beginning of my commitment to build this peace-based economy, was to learn finance, create investment funds. And long story short, as I went through that sequence, the biggest challenge was not so much raising money, but it was finding people who could hold the money and execute on plans, and also shared my values. I mean, there are a lot of people that are in business or run investment funds, but they're doing stuff. Let's just say I don't, either I'm opposed to it or I don't care about it in a heartfelt way. And so finding people who both cared about the environment and ecology the way I did, and also were willing to do what it would take to be responsible with billions of dollars of capital, I couldn't find really anybody to work with me. It was a lot easier to find people who wanted to yell at the government. That's easy. But finding people who want to handle a lot of money. So I'd been working on that theme for a long time, and bit by bit, the laws changed. And so I thought, I can do this again. It's not so hard. And I thought I would train individuals how to raise money. That didn't work really either. It's like, oh no. So I do still teach people how to raise money, but really, in this current iteration, what I really am focused on is cultivating the quality of leadership and the leader state in as many people as I can, and having that kind of training ready so that I can raise the money myself to hire the right kind of people who have the values I have, bring them up to speed on the leadership quality and the integrity to handle a lot of money, and then put them to work. And I've met people who do this, exactly what I'm saying, in other fields. Most of them already had their own cash from some startup, they cashed out. But part of my point is that we can change these things starting from zero. We don't have to get rich first in order to really make big changes in the world, in the economy, to make big economic changes that don't necessarily require, yelling at the government or anybody else. All right, so that's a lot of backstory, but so what's the result of that? Holding that commitment and constantly, working on my schedule to create the space for that. And then yesterday I had this beautiful meeting. I did a group leadership mentoring meeting with, I think there were at least 14 people there, on the essence of leadership and the leader story. And it was so beautiful. It's a very transformational experience, but it's also very grounded, because in the leader story, we're mixing in a sequence, we're sharing our vision, we're sharing the inspiration that we had to pursue that, which inspires other people. Then the concrete steps. So, we're not just like, that the other person realizes we're not just airheads just talking about wouldn't it be great, but like we're really serious. And then some of the other concrete steps that it would take, like a kind of a hat tip to the overall budget, and then integrity. Like, suppose a person gives you money, like what's going to happen? How do they know it's not going to just get wasted, or you're going to take a trip to some island in the Pacific or something. So covering all those bases. And so when these students were really they were all committed to the same thing, and they all want to become better fundraisers and better leaders. And it was just so cool. And so I had this kind of peak experience of seeing this vision that I was settled on, this iteration about really almost 2 years ago, and then chipping away inside of my commitment, allocating time, taking actions. And then finally to see it just come together. And it came together so easily. I could only met these people the week before, and suddenly we had a meeting with the director of the organization. And 2 days later, we're meeting and having this big group training session. Everybody loved it. And I loved it. It made me so happy. So that experience of fulfillment it's a great thing. And the money really follows that kind of thing. When you're in that zone, like, I don't have any doubt that this will work financially as well as, you might say, emotionally and spiritually. So cultivating that space, you're working on your commitment, you're looking at your calendar, and it's like, how am I going to do this? And we're going to cover that topic in the next video.